Conversation was going so well, we had to do it again and keep it rolling. Episode 2, here we go. Charlie, let's roll, baby.
Do you find it sometimes hard, or at least when you were initially doing that with the kids, especially like setting that for yourself, anyways, because you put out a lot of stuff, a lot of content.
Well, it was really hard. And I'll tell you this, and this was like a turning point for me and my kids too, a huge turning point. It was Mother's Day. And in our family, in our household, holidays have never been a huge deal. And birthdays, like we don't make it a huge deal. And so Mother's Day was never really even a huge deal in our house. And it was, I think during COVID, it might've been like that first Mother's Day after COVID or whatever. All I know is that my kids, I didn't get like a happy Mother's Day until like later in the day. My daughter did send me the most beautiful text. And then they showed up at like 3:00 in the afternoon. Like they did show up with an orchid, but I was already kind of pissed because I'm already scrolling through my social media and seeing all the moms with the breakfast in bed and the flowers and the cards and all this, the brunches. And I'm sitting here at home by myself, like waiting for my kids to show up, making my own breakfast, all that stuff. I'm like,
how dare you make the big breakfast
every year. And it happens every year. And every year I'm always pissed off. Right. So I remember my son walks in. And he goes, is it going to be another one of those Mother's Day, Mom, where you're going to be like mad because we didn't like do all this stuff for you? And I looked at him and I'm like, you know what, bud? No, I'm done with it. He goes, yeah, because I don't understand why you have to compare us. He goes, we're here, right? We love you. Like, who cares about what other people think? Like, why does it matter? Like, he always said that. He goes, I don't understand why you have to post about me. Why does it matter what other people think? And so in that moment, I was like, and I turned to him and I go, dude, you're right. Like, it's my own insecurity. For whatever reason, I feel like I'm not a good mom because you guys aren't doing like cool things for me. Like for some reason, I feel like it's my fault, and then I start feeling like crap about it. And I was like, no, Amelia wrote me the most beautiful text. I'm like, you still show up with an orchid and my favorite chocolate cake. You guys are here. We're talking. We're having conversation. Like it's the three of us together. I was like, that's what matters. That's what's important. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, like, hello. And after that, I was like, God, I'm such an asshole.
No, because you were in the same boat as millions upon millions of people. And we can go down this rabbit hole of why exactly that story you just explained is what is the downside of social media.
Yeah.
It's the constant comparison. That's what causes people depression. That's why they're saying, rates of depression in young kids who have 4 more hours of screen time a day is just skyrocketing because they are doing exactly that. It goes back to the filters and everything else. It's just constant comparison, and they don't know how to separate that from reality.
Yeah, and it's hard because as adults, once again, we don't know how to do it either sometimes. Mm-hmm. And if we're trying to set an example, it's really hard, right? So sometimes it does take our kids telling us but yeah,
we're here.
Yeah, I mean, but they were right. And it's okay to also tell your kids when they're right, because that's another thing too. I think it doesn't diminish your power as a parent or your whatever. Not at all. Like, if anything, I think more and more I'm realizing how that it's okay to do that. And if anything, my kids are respecting me even more because I'm willing to say when I'm wrong, or I'm willing to admit when I, effed up or kind of I suck.
Yeah, we do that now. Like even though our daughter's just about to be 11, where there's the moments where, as a parent, you're like, "Hey, my bad. I was wrong. You were right."
Mm-hmm.
And just in that, I'm sure you see it. You can visibly see like her reaction.
Yeah.
And just knowing that, hey, we can be wrong, and we're admitting it. Like how huge that is, and even for her. Like, I'm sure as she gets older, there's going to be some times where we're not going to want to admit the fault, but it's going to happen because we like to have that relationship too, the open relationship, the conversations, and then not having, to your point, not having to post everything all the time. Like, and let her know that that's okay too. Like, you don't have to post every single meal that you had.
I stopped doing that. That was another conscious effort of mine too during COVID. I was like, okay, if I'm talking about mindful social media, I'm like, what I'm putting out there, is it making someone else feel badly about themselves? Is it making them feel like, they don't have something that I do? And so I stopped posting food and alcohol in restaurants. Like, I did stop doing that because I found that I'm like, what am I doing? All it's doing is making someone else that might not have the opportunity to like go to a restaurant or eat like a meal like this. It's going to make them feel like shit. I was like, I don't want to be that person. So I do try to minimize a lot of that. So even like if I'm at a really nice establishment, nice hotel or nice party or something, I don't know. Sometimes I don't even post it either because I don't want anyone feeling like they're missing out on something. And so yeah, that's why too with like my trips and stuff like that. Sometimes I just don't want to feel like I'm also kind of like flaunting a certain lifestyle. Not that I have this like incredible lifestyle, but it's still way better than a lot of people's. And so, and I know when I see other people's fancy lifestyles, a lot of times I'm like, really? Like there's this one person I follow and she like literally everything is perfection. The Chanel bag, the perfect restaurant, the perfect food, the perfect everything, the perfect outfit, like everything is perfection. And
sounds exhausting.
it's like, I know, I was thinking, oh my God, that must be exhausting to
like, do you get to even enjoy the moment, or are you too busy planning on how perfect all your pictures versus just enjoying the experience?
Yeah. And that's another thing too, is that with the travel, because I'm not posting on purpose, guess what? My phone's pretty much put away.
Yeah, you're living it. You're in the moment.
And I walk away and sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could have shared this moment or something. I'm like, go, but why? Like, I do have to question myself. Like, why do I feel like I should have had to, like, why is it giving me anxiety because I can't post this moment? And then I have to like think about that. And I was like, what, to be validated? Because I got, no, it's like, because yeah, you realize psychologically like what it does to you sometimes. So it's a reminder of like, Raquel, it's about being present. It's about being in the moment. It's about the experience, like nothing else.
I don't need that dopamine hit from the hundreds of likes I could get.
Right, but it does, but like that's what happens is we realize that like, oh man, this picture or this place, oh my gosh, it'll get people, everybody talking.
So when to that point, like when you're telling an LO to go out there and put some content, are you just saying like, hey, post it, forget it, and just move on with your day? Like how do you coach them up on that?
Well, I don't tell them to forget it because you definitely
not forget, you know what I mean? Like
stop, you got to interact with comments.
Stop refreshing.
Yeah.
It's like a dopamine hit, like you're at a slot machine hitting refresh.
I do that sometimes. I'm telling you, like I'm guilty of a lot of this stuff too. With LOs, a lot of it, like a lot of them have their outside hobbies. Like they're like, I have one LO that loves to mountain bike. I'm always like, put the video like a time lapse or something like on your bike, or do it like in a cool angle and just do something that you could just put some music to it. And there you go. It's something that like, at least it's content. It's something and people will like, oh my gosh, she's a mountain biker. And then you'll gain people that have the same kind of interest. Maybe they'll start a conversation and then it could lead to something. But yeah, I really try to get them not to overthink it. But unfortunately, we all overthink it. It doesn't matter. Like me, I overthink it too. And so I do try to have like some compassion and empathy for what their struggles are, because I do understand that for me it is easier to get in front of the camera and do video. Like I enjoy it, I love it, and so I have to remind myself like, Raquel, remember, like not everybody enjoys to be in front of the camera and be a total goofball and do these like crazy Instagram reels.
Not everybody is destined to be the queen of goofiness.
I know, right?
Proclaim yourself, right?
Yeah, but look at, like, for instance, Instagram just started Threads, right? So Threads just started yesterday. Well, guess what? It's still in its infancy, even though it already has 15 million users on there as of yesterday. But if you're really good at writing, like there are people, like I was never on Twitter, but when you would see tweets because they would repost it on like different, some of these people, I'm like, oh my God, they are so clever, so witty. Like sometimes I'm just like, I wish I could come up with this stuff because this is so good. So it's the same thing for LOs. Like if you have a knack for that, or you're really good at education, like educating people, then do it through that platform. Do it through that format where it's more of a written word as opposed to the videos. Same thing with LinkedIn. Like you could do articles. So there are different ways, or like I said before, the engagement piece of it. It doesn't have, I get that videos where it's at, but it doesn't have to be video if that's not where you feel comfortable.
So we've touched on overposting in an indirect way quite a bit over the last 20 minutes. And like my biggest example is we all know them, we all love them, but sometimes it's a little too much. Realtors, I feel like, are the most notorious for posting on a lot of people's threads. And a lot of it is exactly what you said. It's personal life stuff on top of their business stuff. And it's always them driving their fancy car and this is their listing. And now all of a sudden they're on the beach, but then they show themselves still working on their laptop on the beach because work never stops and blah, blah, blah. So how do you coach the overposting whenever you're working with your LOs, with people who have reached out to you for help on their branding?
I never had an issue with anyone overposting.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Oh, that's good.
That's really good.
I have the opposite problem. I'm like, freaking post something. So yeah, that's not a problem.
So I feel like we did cover it then on like what the fine line is. You want to show some of your personal life, your personal hobbies on top of what you're doing for work, but don't overdo it and cross that and show every meal, every vacation, every little thing. Like that's kind of where you want it.
Yeah, I feel like
if you were to recommend.
Well, because not only that, like I see it as if they're posting everything that they're not appreciating the moment. They're not like, you know what I mean? Like I also like have enough kind of insight and I'm very intuitive and have like all that self-awareness. So like I think about it in that way of like, if this person's constantly like, what is it about their life that they feel like they have to do that all the time, right? So it's like, so then it's a reminder for me too of like, hey, I don't want to be that person. I want to be someone that is actually experiencing the moment. And I get the food if you're a food blogger, or if you're a foodie, or that's your interest is cooking, doing the food and all of that. But like at some seriously, people see your half French fry on your plate. If it's stories, whatever. I mean, that's the thing too, is like with stories, because it is behind the scenes and stories are even kind of like more relevant than the actual post on Instagram. People are posting a lot of just crap on there because it's gone in 24 hours. So I don't want to be too like critical about like what you're posting on your Instagram stories. But, at the end of the day, like you do what you feel comfortable with. Like, don't do it because you think you should be doing it. Like if you're someone that's posting all the time because you feel like you have to, then there's a problem, right? Like there are times where I don't post at all. Like if I have nothing to say, then I don't post and I have nothing to say. And there are moments. I do have my moments.
Are you sure? Are you
I mean, seriously, I'm like, I've had my funks, where I'm kind of like, where I just like, I did a video about this last week where, cause I was out of town and I purposely had my phone away. And then to get back on, it was like a struggle because I had enjoyed being off of the phone for several days. And I was like talking about how it's a real struggle of like wanting to get away from your phone, social media, especially when it's in my career and I'm on it pretty much 24/7, getting off of it, but then coming back on, it's like overwhelming. And then you feel like you missed out and you're playing catch up. And then that feeling sucks. But so it's like that balance, but I had a ton of engagement on it because everybody could relate.
Everybody can relate to that.
Everybody
Absolutely.
can relate, right? So that's the thing is like, even though I really didn't have anything to say and have much content, it was able to turn it into content, right? Because I think that's just what I do a lot of too, is like really just being very like in the moment of like, hey, this is kind of what I'm going through in this moment. Like I did the same thing. I was at a gas station a couple months ago. I was in a real funk. There was a lot going on in my life, a lot of heaviness. I had took everything me to get out of bed and go to work. I rolled out of bed, didn't shower, put on a baseball cap, had sweats. Luckily, I can walk into work like that. I'm at the gas station. I pulled out the phone and I was like, hey, I'm kind of having one of those moments. Like, I'm okay. Like, I was like, nobody worry about me. Like, I'm good. I'm just in a place right now where I'm feeling a lot of stuff and I'm trying to feel, and I was just like, basically it was like my therapy session. Like, that's what happens too, is like when I just talk about it and then I share it to the world, like, then I'm good. And it's incredible how much engagement I got on that one as well. It's usually when I'm like super just in the moment, that's when people really like connect with me because I am being vulnerable.
It's real.
Yeah, that's the biggest piece.
You're being real and people recognize it right away.
So I'll do that every now and again. Yeah, every now and again, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to have a moment. And I think what happens is because I have them rarely, when I do have them, people like pay attention.
Yeah, if it's once a week, people are gonna be like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, no. It's every couple months or maybe not even. But so what I do, it's really sweet too how many people reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I know you're okay, but like if you need anything, like you give so much to us." Like this was a pretty common message that I got after that video at the gas station. you give so much to us, and you always make us laugh and smile, and you give and you give. It's really important that you are able to receive as well. And if you need anything, I'm here for you, or like, appreciate you and everything you do. And I understand you have your moments, but you got this. Like, it was incredible. Like, it really, that's when you realize that like you've created a really awesome community. And that's something that I'm very proud of with my LinkedIn. Very, very proud of the people in my network, in my sphere. Like, it's
I feel like LinkedIn, it's a little more, almost feels more real. Actually, that's exactly how it feels to me anyways. Like versus like a Facebook, like someone reaching out on Facebook. Like, listen, I haven't talked to you in 20 years. Like, I know you don't give a crap. It's like
no, I don't want life insurance.
Yeah, I don't want life insurance. Let me tell you, there's a lot of life insurance people on LinkedIn hitting me up.
Yeah. Well, and that's like too, I purposely don't have the notification turned on. So like when it's my birthday, I have had it off for years on LinkedIn, because I'm like, the people that truly know me are going to reach out and wish me a happy birthday, because I don't have Facebook, so nobody's getting notified. So I purposely do that, because it's the people that remember they're going to reach out. I don't need like the blanket happy birthday crap. Sorry.
The canned message that LinkedIn provides.
Yeah, I don't need that. No. Yeah. But that's another thing for me, like, that's really important, is just to kind of like, hey, I don't need all of your LinkedIn, just happy birthday just because, like.
Your LinkedIn community is about to take a slight hit, though, as I'm about to click the follow button.
Oh,
it's going to go down a tiny notch.
So let me ask you this. You put a lot of stuff out there and you're kind of inspiring a lot of people, but like, who do you follow for like inspiration? Or do you, like, are there specific people you do, or pages?
That is a good question. So I do have like my social media people that I follow that I love, that I feel like are really genuine. And every time I reach out, they always respond, and they're really good about supporting me too. And that's like Chelsea Pites. A lot of people follow her because she's in the industry and she does a lot of stuff for real estate. She's big on Instagram. Shannon McKinstry, she's on Instagram too. She's another one that I love, like what she does. So there are certain like social media influencers that I follow, but I love it because they do it in a way that I feel like is just very genuine. But as far as like, I will tell you this, the accounts that I love to follow that really just make me feel good. And that's another thing too, is I tell people that you can control what you follow and what's in your feed, right? Like, I like to have feel good stuff. So I follow all like Upworthy, Good Movement, all the MD Motivator, Johnny Darts, all those guys that do those random acts of kindness. I mean, I'm like, there was one day I did a story because I was bawling, and I was like, everybody, you gotta follow these accounts. They just, the humanity, and they just make you feel so good. And I'm just like, brr. So yeah, like, that's the type of content that I like to consume, is like that every day someone just helping somebody else and just showing like that there's good people in this world. Like, that for me is a motivation. Or I follow a lot of accounts that like, there's one called Recess Therapy, where it's a guy that talks to kids, like ask them the funniest questions. So yeah, like, those are the type of accounts that I like on my feed, and they inspire me in some way. And yeah, like,
I like that. You ever follow People of New York?
No.
So my wife follows them, and she always tells me about these stories she reads. This guy's a great writer, but it's the same thing. It's about people helping people, or giving someone's life story. Someone that's now homeless in New York that used to be a go-go dancer, and all the hard times they went through. Here we go.
People of New York, telling all 8 million stories. Okay.
Yeah, the guy's an incredible writer. But that was one that, like, she'll be reading a story just bawling her eyes out, and I'm like, what's happening? And there's like 3 or 5 pages of text.
Well, no, and that's the thing, is like, for me, if I'm going to be on social media, I want to consume content that's going to make me feel good about the world, and walk away being like, okay, keep doing what you're doing, Raquel. You can make a difference. Because yeah, it can be daunting and it can be overwhelming, and especially someone like myself who's going to be 48 next month, and I'm in a space where it's women and men half my age that do what I do. Social media managers and creating content, like. A lot of the stuff that I see of theirs, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. And look at how the edits and the cuts and the quality. And then I'm doing it. But then I have to remind myself that I'm also older, and I have more experience, and I've lived, and like, there's things that like I have to remind myself of, that the value that I provide is different, because I can get caught up in that competition game too, and comparing myself as well. And yeah, that's just not. Yeah.
I think we said this last episode where I don't think we've hit a due date on a single rapid rush request, because we always say these are quick questions, quick answers, and they never end up being quick questions.
No, it's always extended.
But it's still fun to call it rapid rush requests. So first one, we ask everybody this question. Does your text message show up green or does it show up blue? Android or iPhone?
Ooh, iPhone, baby.
Yeah. I have a confession from Charlotte though.
Charlie has an Android. I do know that.
Oh yeah. Everybody knows. I had a dream that I had your flip Android phone. I had a dream that I was using it and it was my phone.
Come on over to the dark side, bud.
Never gonna happen.
Is it flip?
Charlie?
Yeah, he has that one that the screen folds.
The fancy flip. Like it. I thought like old school flip phone.
He's got a razor. He's got a razor.
I want the razor because it's probably more durable than this thing. But no, this is fun.
How many of those have you broken?
2.
Oh God.
I'm on lucky number 3, so this has got to be it.
And you get them insured, so like you just get it for free. Okay.
I mean, it's a folding screen. You know, you're getting insurance on that one.
All right, so question number 2. I told you these are not rapid rush requests. We've already missed 3 due dates. Asking for extensions here. Comps are a little complicated. I saw you drinking hot coffee there. So, do you prefer the hot over the iced, or are you an iced coffee? Which
I actually like hot. I drink hot usually in the summer because I drink it early enough in the morning where I just still like to, with the hot coffee. But I'll do iced if I in like later in the day. But I prefer hot.
What's the best SoCal burrito?
Oh God, you know what? I don't know because I don't do the Mexican like shops here. Like I just don't do them.
I've never been to San Diego. I've heard like the taco stands and like
get
some of the best like street tacos.
Yeah, in high school we used to do cotijas in PB and Pacific Beach. They had a quesadilla suprema. It was like it was a huge quesadilla with beef. It was like a burrito quesadilla with like the sour cream and the lettuce. It had everything on there. So we used to do that in high school. But as far as now, I don't hit any of those places up. I try to eat really healthy and I try to eat at home now that my mom cooks for me every time. Now that I live with her. So I do know that in La Jolla, there's a place called the Taco Stand and there's always a huge line. And it's a little hole in the wall dive in downtown La Jolla, and there's always a line. But
I think I saw that the last time I was out there.
Well, yeah, there's a burrito place that I went to in Encinitas with Joe Wilson, with Social Coach. We met up halfway, and I forget what the place was, but they had good burritos, and it was in I think it was Encinitas or Carlsbad, one of those places. But yeah, I don't frequent, especially if I have a Mexican mother. Like, what am I doing?
You're right. She'd be very upset with you.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And it's like you can't bring it home because she's gonna be yelling at you, and then she's gonna make the food. She'll be like, "Eat mine."
Yeah, I get like real authentic, Mexican food. So there's no reason for me to do that. So sorry to disappoint you on that one, but I don't know.
Boo. Do you miss the seasons now that you're out there?
You know what? I do. Fall. That's the only season. Fall. And you know what?
Fall is fantastic.
Yeah, and a little bit in spring, I will admit, I was out there at beginning of May. I flew back with my daughter when she completed school. And everything was just so lush and green, and the only problem is I have really bad allergies, and I forgot. And when I went back out there in May, it was awful.
So bad this year. So bad.
Yeah, it was a bad year.
When I was there, I think there was one day that I took like antihistamine. I took Flonase. I drank some wine. I took some like Benadryl.
Give it all.
I was just like loading up because I forgot, because I've been here for almost a year now. So yeah, it really was beautiful. And the weather, oddly enough, was like San Diego weather when I was out there in May. It was during Mother's Day that week.
Yeah.
It was like 70s, sunny. And then here it's been cold. So yeah, it was perfect. But fall, I do miss
football season.
Well, yeah,
those Hokies running out on the field to Enter Sandman, that crazy intro they do. Crazy. Their intro is pretty solid.
It
is. And it sucks though, and this is something that like I have to just respect too, is that my son, in the 4 years that he's been there, I've never been down there for like any kind of visit. I drove him down there. I picked him up once and I dropped him off at one time, and both times he's like out, like he would. I'm not allowed to hang out. So like my ex has been down there for parents weekend, for the dad's day, for the frat house, has gone to like, I don't know if he's gone to any games, but he at least gets to go down there. Me, nothing. So I feel like this weird like disconnect that I never got a chance to experience like, the Virginia Tech in any way. Cause my son's like, sorry, mom, like you cannot hang out down here. I remember, I think the last time my ex was down there was Dad's Day for the frat house. And I guess all the girls were hanging out, like all the sorority girls. And they're like, oh, Mr. Borras, like, cause he's a good looking guy. And, I guess he would be considered a DILF, I guess.
I'm sure they refer to him.
Yeah. And so they're like flirting. And they're like, oh, Mr. Borras. And they're like, Nick, what's your mom like? And because my ex is like, well, I was married. He goes, well, we're not married, but she is very attractive or something to that respect. I was like, it was very sweet that like he like complimented me. But then my son goes, yeah, girls, you'd be already initiating her in your sorority if she were right here now. So that's why she's not here.
I was going to say, that's the reson why he's trying to keep the frat boys from talking about you. That's why.
Yeah.
Great for me. And then he's like, knows that I would be best friends with all the girls. And he likes to keep that very much like, like doesn't want his mom to know like who. I mean, there is one girl that I'm allowed to like know about, and she'll like if he's with her, he'll send me like a selfie with her. She connected with me on LinkedIn the other day. I was like, look who connected with me on LinkedIn. But as far as like that, yeah, they all follow me on social media too, so he hates that. So yeah,
you mentioned he was smart. He's trying to keep you away from
it. Sounds like it.
Oh, my daughter the other day, she calls me, and once again, I'm super transparent. She calls me and I was like, oh, I'm going out. I met this guy, like, and she goes, okay, is he age appropriate? And I go, yeah, he's older than me. She goes, okay. Cause she's like, cause she calls me a cougar. So she's like, okay, cougar, like here we are. I'm like, hey, don't get it twisted. I'm like, I still like him younger. And she's like, okay, mom.
So many things we can open up there, but we're gonna leave it.
But yeah, see, that's
how I don't even know how I asked my last Rapid Rush request after that. We've got off the rails.
You try and bring it back after that.
We're talking about dilfs and cougars and all.
No, I like to like go out with a bang. Okay.
Absolutely, I think that's the way you can't top this. This is the perfect way to end it.
You're right.
Now I really hope that no one listens to any of this.
Oh no, we got plenty of listeners in Europe.
This one more than any other one we've promoted
for sure.
Oh my gosh! You guys want the tea? Listen to this friggin' podcast.
We could end it on a high note with that with the cougar conversation. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap, my friend. All in all, I think Raquel was a fantastic guest for the Valunation listeners. If you haven't already, make sure to go out and turn on the little bell icon for the notifications on when the new episodes are dropping. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, or wherever else you get your podcast content. Don't forget about IG, TikTok, and Facebook. Of course, you can always go over there and see some of the new things we're doing, whether on the road, what kind of hairstyle Schwartz has for the day, all the usuals.